Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to this Ramadan series. Now, the first thing to do when taking on any task is preparing mentally and having the right mindset to address it. And that the Ramadan is no different. Now, tell me, you probably all had this experience where you had a family member that it's the first day of Ramadan, they're laid out on the couch, they have a giant migraine headache, they're feeling very sick. And this image shapes our Ramadan experience, especially when we're young and we start to feel Ramadan, we start to have, the nocebo effect. So just like many of you have heard of the placebo effect, where you expect something good to happen and you have a good result as a result of that, there's also the nocebo effect, where your bad expectations of things can cause you to have bad effects. So we don't want to have any nocebo effects when it comes to Ramadan. We don't want to have bad expectations. We want to put those to the side. And instead, by using the tools and tricks we're going to discuss here, we want to have a placebo effect, knowing that you're going to go into Ramadan very strong. You're going to have proper sohoour. You're going to have all the hydration tactics. You're going to be your best self. So no nocebo and have full-on placebo effects. Now, don't get me wrong. Ramadan can be very tough for certain people with different conditions, people that have very demanding jobs, mothers with many kids. But nonetheless, we don't want to have any bad expectations. We want to dig into the barakah that comes out of this month and go in with it with our best foot forward. So, in part of preparing mentally, what we have to realize is that we are actually designed to fast. Now, if the human species wasn't able to go periods of time without food, we would all die out. Unfortunately, the modern food environment has you eating every 3 hours. You're constantly on a drip of food. You're always snacking. You have 3 meals a day, maybe 5 meals a day, snack every 2, 3 hours. And so we're accustomed to always eating. But the reality of the matter is that the body is well adapted to go periods of time without food. The way we are designed is to have many different stores of energy available to us. So if we break that down, the first store of energy you'll have is whatever food you eat at suhoor that will be digested throughout the day, and you'll be able to use that source of energy. People will usually intake on a meal of suhoor from 500 to 800, maybe if you're a bigger eater in the morning, 1,000 calories. That's one part of the caloric load that you'll have available to you during the fast. After that, our liver and our muscles store something called glycogen. Glycogen is a type of sugar that's chained together, and it can be released in times of low food availability to allow us to get through the day. The liver will have about 100 grams of fast digestible carbohydrates available for you to use at any moment, and the muscle will have another 400 grams of sugar available to you, depending on how big you are and how much muscle you do have. That will vary. So we're talking about almost 500 to 600 grams of glucose. And if you do the math, that's almost 2,000 calories ready for you to use throughout the day. So if we put it all together, combining your suhoor and the glycogen that's in your liver and in your muscle, let's say you have 500 calories of suhoor and you have almost 1,500 to 2,000 calories worth of glycogen, you're already hitting 2,500 calories available for you to use throughout the day. So that's more than enough to meet your daily needs. On top of that, some people have insulin resistance. They're not most metabolically fit, so it makes it harder for them to tap into these reserves. But the good part is Ramadan allows you to become more insulin sensitive and more metabolically healthy. So you can tap into these fuels and get adapted to using these stored fuels for energy. The best way to prepare for this is to fast in the days before Ramadan, in the months before Ramadan, to be very adapted to tapping into the glycogen stores. But nonetheless, if you're not somebody who's doing that, or you're watching this on the first day of Ramadan or the night before, you can expect to adapt within the first few days. Now, on top of the food you eat at suhoor and all the sugar that's stored in your liver and your muscle as glycogen, you also have all the fat that you have stored on your body to use as fuel. The fat that we have, we store it so we can be able to liberate it when we have times of famine, when we have starvation, when we have times of fasting. Problem is many people never have these experiences, so they keep accumulating more and more fat. Now, if we put it all together, the 500 to 600 calories at suhoor, the 15 to 2,000 calories from the easily digestible sugars in your liver and in your muscle, known as glycogen, and all the fat reserves, you have tons of fuel to get you through the day. You're not going to be starving during the day in Ramadan. You have tons of energy available to you. The problem is a lot of us have difficulties tapping into those energy reserves because of insulin resistance. Now, insulin is the hormone that helps you tap into your sugar and allow you to store it in your cells. As we get metabolically unwell and we're not as healthy as we should be, we become a little bit insulin resistant, which means our cells kind of reject insulin and don't respond to it as well. When this happens, your body has more of a hard time tapping into these energy reserves. And that's why some people struggle more than others in the first few days in Ramadan. On top of that, the popular ketogenic diet that many people have heard about. Now, what happens during fasting, especially if you become more adapted to fasting, is you go into a state of ketosis, where your body is taking fat that you have stored and makes ketone bodies out of this. Now, ketones are a very valuable tool because you can use those to fuel your brain. You can use those to fuel some other organs in the body, and that can get you through the day without having so much of a slump. If you exhausted all your glycogen reserves, you didn't eat much for suhoor, and you've already exhausted that, the ketone bodies will help you get through the day and have a lot of energy. And you'll notice that by day 20 of Ramadan, especially by day 30, by the end of Ramadan, you're so well adapted to using all these different fuels, to making ketone bodies, to tapping into your energy reserves. So you'll have plenty of fuels to get you through the day. Now, thirst, that's another issue, and we'll cover that in the next episode.